Sorry. It's something I do to my bird all the time, makes her laugh. It's my impression of a reptilian. Okay? Couldn't help myself.
US health official who had a stark warning about a second wave of infections. In an interview with the Washington Post, the CDC chief, Robert Redfield, said that there is a possibility. With the Washington Post, CDC chief, Robert Redfield, said that there is a possibility.
Join in with the hands, yeah. Finding plate. The spider.
That the assault of the virus on our nation next winter will actually be even more difficult than the one we just went through.
Even she don't fucking believe it. Do you hear the disfluency in her voice? Okay. They love winter because they love Christmas, because Christmas is Saturnian in nature. It's the celebration of Satan. Okay?
Next winter will actually be even
so of course it's going to be more difficult
than the one we just went through.
But then the one
Next winter will actually be even more difficult than the one we just went through. He adds that we're going to have the flu epidemic and the coronavirus epidemic at the same time.
And coronavirus. Vocal fry. I think Alana Iguana is finally actually an iguana. I think she's had the snake over makeover now.
Going to have the flu epidemic and the coronavirus epidemic at the same time, which will put unimaginable strain on the health.
Yeah, they will be putting unimaginable strain on you, okay? Because, ready for this one? The flu epidemic and the coronavirus epidemic are the same thing. They're telling you. They're the same thing. Of course, you're going to have them at the same time.
Now, he added that protests, which are calling for states to be so-called liberated from lockdown orders, which the president himself appears to have encouraged on Twitter, are, in his words, not helpful.
See, they're already starting to blend iron with clay. Look, you've got centaurs now. I'm sorry, I'm only joking. I'm trying to keep things more upbeat. The more they try and bring our vibrations lower, I'm gonna do everything I can to boost them higher. Okay. I wonder if they're meant to be twins. If that's part of the symbolism, I'd imagine so. Bit of a red flag, really, isn't it?
Now, the US has the most coronavirus cases and deaths than any other country by far. In the past 24 hours, the number of deaths passed 45,000. There are now more than 830,000 cases across the state. Despite those figures, however, there are several southern US states which are pushing ahead.
The vocal fry coming through. And I don't remember her having this kind of forehead before either. Her teeth are going too. Okay, they're there, but they're not human. Okay, they certainly don't look it, at least. So yeah, I think she's been done.
Despite those, the number of deaths passed 45 by far.
See that?
In the past 24 hours, the number of deaths passed 45,000. There are now more than 830,000 cases across the state.
Listen to the vocal fry.
Despite those figures, however, there are several southern US states which are pushing.
See, it comes just after the proboscis has entered you. You know, it's trying to assimilate itself. Okay, so it has to learn your voice. Okay, the way you move, not the way you think, because it's not you anymore. It copies all that.
Ahead to ease lockdown restrictions. In Georgia, the residents there can visit gyms, hairdressers, tattoo parlors, and bowling alleys.
And they glitch out a lot. You see what I mean? Like, that's not a hard word to spell. It's not a hard word to read. You know, it's not a complicated subject, is it? Gyms, hair salons, tattoo parlors, and bowling alleys. to open Friday. I can do it. Anyone can do it. There's something going on with Alana.
To ease lockdown restrictions. In Georgia, the residents there can visit gyms, hairdressers, tattoo parlours, and bowling alleys from Friday. Movie theatres, restaurants will then follow on Monday. Let's turn to South Carolina, which has rescinded a ban on people going to the beach and
Of what? Rescinded?
also to retail outlets will be able to open if social distancing measures are in place.
Do you know what I mean? Something's been put in place. In her place.
And a stay-at-home order in Tennessee will lapse by the end of April. There's been pressure to lift the lockdown.
7. Symbolic of Saturn. So let's have a little look at some of this controlled opposition here. Okie dokie.
Protesters taking to the streets across America calling for businesses to reopen. These
Yeah, Trump's not going to save you. He's part of the same system. Okay, wake up.
are the most recent rallies that took place on Tuesday. Some of the protesters have come bearing firearms. Gun rights groups also among the organisers. Well, the state of Illinois has seen one of the worst outbreaks of COVID-19. According to the latest figures, there have been more than 23,000 cases and 1,000 deaths. Dr. Emily Landon is an infectious disease expert and had this message for anti-lockdown protesters.
It's clear to me that we're admitting at least as many patients as we're discharging with COVID every single day. We're not ready to get back outside and do our regular lives.
What the fuck is that? Is that necessary to be in the background? You have to understand, before they go on cam, they check all this out. They have to. Okay? Because it could come across offensive or confusing or, more to the point, distracting. Because this is a very serious matter, correct? So why would you put something in the background like that that's so obviously going to catch your eyes, right? Do you understand? Okay, now I don't actually have the full answer for this one. It's clever though. What I can see, what I can tell, I mean, E has always been used for 3. Okay, I know it's not the third letter of the alphabet, C is, but because of the way an E is, it's a 3. 3 for Saturn. And then you've got us, Earth. You see? And the fucking pincers. Yeah? The Saturn devouring Earth. Red for blood sacrifice, black for death. And then all her new age bullshit. Or are they tissue boxes that she's stacked up? Oh, I don't know. One or the other. Black Saturnian fashion all the time, every one of them.
Not in the same way we used to anyway.
I love black. I wear it all the time. It's not the point, okay? That's not why they're wearing it. You understand, these people, they call themselves people. They call themselves scientists, doctors, politicians. Is that how they would usually dress? Does that give off... You get well done, right? Surely.
It's unbelievable to me. They are putting themselves and many others in harm's way. The real problem with this illness is not, certainly we care a lot.
So, I mean, they all know they're talking shit. They all know it's lies. Okay?
About harm's way. The real problem with this illness is not, certainly we care a lot about those that are sick and we're very worried about them overburdening our health system. But it's the people who are transmitting the disease before they even have symptoms and those that never develop symptoms but can still transmit the infection. And that is exactly where we see spread like that in these sorts of protest and crowded situations. Those people are probably starting complicated transmission webs.
Webs. Do you understand? The words they use are based on the lifestyle that they live, okay? As is yours and mine. It's your life experience coming through verbally, okay? And you're hearing it with your life experience auditorily. You've got to listen to the way they speak, but not only the way they speak, the words they use, okay? Webs. The mother is spider-like in nature. They worship the mother, okay? Kronos is both. What did she say? The transitioning web.
Dr. Landon there. Now, to get a perspective on those protests, I spoke to Katty Kay in Washington. think we should put the numbers of protesters in some perspective.
Buddha, Kali, Krishna, Brahma, it's all the divine feminine, okay? It all comes back to the same thing, especially Shiva, who is what? The destroyer.
Though, Kasha, because it seems that
They use it to seem like spiritual. That's the best they've got to know what they're talking about, what we're talking about.
they're in their hundreds. They're not in their thousands. They're not in their tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. These are relatively small groups in several states around the country. In some cases, they seem to have been backed by fairly conservative groups who are urging them to get out there and protest. And to some extent, look, you can understand it. 22 million Americans.
To some extent, you can understand why they would need to induce this much fear in order to control a nation, because they're having a dig at people that are protesting, right? But at the same time, they're the ones that have made them protest. They know what they're doing in the Saturnian black worship again.
Have lost their jobs. People are very anxious about the state of the economy. This is people's livelihoods at stake. They're not getting a paycheck. They can't make their rent. They can't pay their bills.
Yeah, why? Who controls all that? You pieces of shit do, right? The government. Yeah? So you know if you take that away, they're going to riot. Do you understand?
They want to go back to work. So it is an understandable instinct that people...
Of course it is, because you understand. They know.
Really want this lockdown to be over. But when you dig into the opinion polls in those states where we are seeing some of the lockdowns being released, actually people are nervous about this lockdown being ended too soon. Overwhelmingly, the polls suggest that in states like Georgia and Florida, people soon...
Sorry, I'm seeing teeth and on these again.
Understandable in their rent. They can't pay the economy. This is people's livelihoods at stake. They're not getting a paycheck. They can't make their rent. They can't pay their bills, and they want to go back to work. So it is an understandable instinct that people really want this lockdown to be over. But when you dig into the opinion polls in those states where we are seeing some of the lockdowns being released, actually people are nervous about this lockdown being ended too soon. Overwhelmingly, the polls suggest that in states like Georgia and Florida, people are saying we won't be going back to these businesses if we're not convinced that those shops, those tattoo parlors,
Infinity 8s on fucking earrings. Yeah, I don't know what this one is. I'd imagine a tear. It's got that long reptilian neck, so it was worth checking.
Those gyms are safe, and they're getting Twitter.
Hi. Yeah, see, it's not always the eyes. Sometimes they'll trip up on something else. It doesn't even have to be something you see. It could be something you hear. Always worth checking out, though. You see? Because she does.
Talking about
back normal
from the White House as well, because we've had the president, as you say, getting that those shops, those tattoo parlors, those gyms are safe. And they're getting some mixed messages from the White House as well, because we've had the president, as you say, on Twitter talking about liberate Virginia. White House as well, because we've had the president, as you say,
liberate. See, the words can trigger it too. Some of the words they use, as I've shown before.
Twitter.
Here we are.
Talking about liberate Virginia.
See, and then the secondary eyelid goes back. Therefore, the eye goes back to normal.
Tattoo parlors, those gyms are safe. And they're getting some mixed messages from the White House as well, because we've had the president, as you say, on Twitter.
There it is. Getting better at this, I swear.
Talking about liberate Virginia, liberate Minnesota, liberate Michigan, kind of seeming to urge the protesters on. He was asked about it.
Yeah, see, as I've said before, they wink a lot, they blink a lot, right? I say wink as well as blink because it's usually one eye on television that seems to be exposed and one that seems to be enclosed. I believe that's got something to do with their willpower not being as strong as it would need to be to control both. So they just put it on one side of the face. That's what I've noticed a lot, which is also when you see the hologram malfunctioning in liquid crystal polarization, you know, where it all falls apart and goes sort of zebra-like on their skin. a lot of the time it will start on one side, and then they lose control of all of it.
This in the press conference last night, and he said, "Look, there are those protests seem to
It's
be
usually
fine.
this
They're
eye. This
abiding
time
by
it's that
social
eye.
distancing rules. From the image."
Oh, see, and people go, yeah, well, it's telly, isn't it? It's telly, it's telly. Telly picks up pixels that the eyes, human eyes, can't. Okay. And the one thing, as I always said, one thing that sold it to me, 'cause I believed it was a load of shit at one point too, is their reaction when it happens. Okay, who goes, if that happened to your eye, oh, come on, come the fuck on. Watch their reaction. Watch how they look quickly. They have to blink it out. Some of them even grab the fucking eye, start rubbing it. Slap themselves in the face to stop it.
Images I have seen that is abiding
Yeah,
by
we have
social
seen it
distancing.
too.
And he said, "Look, there are those protests seem to be fine. They're abiding by social distancing rules. From the images."
Jim says the word "I." You know what I'm saying?
They're abiding by social.
It's not. It's not a disturbing subject or something.
Social distancing rules. From the images I have seen, that is certainly not always the case.
Fucking is this time, isn't it, love?
And then you also have his top health officials. Dr. Birx was asked about these protests last night, and she also pushing back against. You have to.
And then they start glitching out because they know that it's being seen. Yeah, coming out on that one now too. But because they're right in the middle of their live footage, that's evil backwards, they can't stop it. They can't stop themselves and they can't stop the broadcast. So what happens? It makes them even more anxious. And what did I always tell you, brothers and sisters? It is anxiety and excitement. One end of the spectrum, the other end of the spectrum. They're the only two things that make a malfunction. She's getting anxious. Listen.
The case. And then you also have his top health officials. Dr. Birx was asked about these protests last night, and she also pushing back against. You have to do things in social distancing manner. She was also asked about reopening the country and said, well, you can open tattoo parlors and massage parlors, but you have to be able to social distance if you're creative. Well, you can open tattoo parlors and massage parlors, but you have to be able to social distance if you're creative and can find a way to do that.
Yeah, you laugh too, love. We'll laugh at you.
And massage parlors, but you have to be able to social distance.
Right, ready?
If you're creative and can find a way to do that. Okay, so there's definitely mixed messages coming out of the White House on the opening
and coming out your mouth,
the protesters themselves. It seems that an awful lot in America has changed. One thing that hasn't is how political the coronavirus has come. It's a bit like climate change. It's become an intensely political issue.
Yeah, the other thing that hasn't changed is you still haven't learned how to hide this shit. Nor will you, not with us.
There's in so many countries. Cassie, thank you especially for putting us into perspective.
Whoa.
A number of protesters. Also, another very interesting line coming out. If anybody thought that this coronavirus would be over anytime soon, there's a stark warning from a top health official saying, warning about a second possible.
Stop fucking lying and start telling the truth. And guess what? You'll find your power of speech again.
Official saying the virus will be over anytime soon. There's a stark warning from a top health official saying, warning about a second possible resurgence of this virus.
Oh, fuck me. How can people not see this? Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is what immunologists and virologists.
Honestly, I'm surprised excrement isn't fucking coming out of their orifices because they're so full of shit. It's ridiculous.
I've been saying throughout this that there will likely be a second wave.
Ooh. What the fuck is that one? That's cool, isn't it? Wow. Surprised myself.
Resurgence of this virus. Yeah, I mean, look, this is what immunologists and virologists.
Don't pause it for that one. That's why it's surprising. I paused it for
throughout this that there
This double one in a
will
minute.
likely be
See it? That one.
immunology.
Yeah, so there we have it, my sibling soldiers. Just more evidence for you to sharpen your tools with from your toolbox. Okay, let's do some quick little freeze frames. So we've got the eyeball melting out the socket, very common.